She had a Harvard degree, 4 kids, and a resume that screamed success. But all it took was one no from the academic HR department for her to pull a gun and turn a faculty meeting into a bloodbath. The real question is, how did no one see it coming? Or worse, they did but chose to look the other way. Because when intelligence isn't paired with self-awareness, it doesn't shine, it detonates. In this video, you'll hear the bizarre true story of Amy Bishop, the brilliant scientist, who confused frustration with persecution and believed the world owed her for her unresolved trauma. We'll talk about wounded egos, institutional silence, and the kind of madness that wears a lab coat and signs research papers. Buckle up. This story will blow up your idea of what a misunderstood genius looks like. And if you think this is just about mental health, hold on, because sometimes what looks like a breakdown is just the ego baring its teeth. Let's get into it. Ever had a bad day at work? Like printer jam, boss breathing too loud, and suddenly you're fantasizing about disappearing into the woods? Well, Amy Bishop had one of those days. Except instead of disappearing into nature, she brought a gun to work and killed 3 colleagues during a faculty meeting. This happened in 2010 on a Friday, no less. So much for casual Fridays. The shooting took place in a conference room at the University of Alabama. Professors were sitting around, probably complaining about cafeteria food, endless paperwork, or that one student who quotes Nietzsche without understanding Nietzsche. Then Amy stood up, and instead of a thesis, she pulled a gun. You know when silence suddenly becomes panic? Yeah, that. And the question that echoed after was, how did no one see this coming? Spoiler, it wasn't some random meltdown. This was the bloody climax of a psychological opera that started decades earlier, back when Amy was still seen as gifted. But don't worry, the story doesn't start with college bloodshed. It starts with a Saturday lunch that ended with her brother on the floor. Literally. Want to know how? Amy Bishop was born into a home where intelligence was practically a religion. Her dad was a professor, her mom obsessed with the family image, and her little brother Seth, a golden child ripped straight out of a Perfect Son catalog. Amy, the eldest, was a talented violinist, a gifted brain, and socially off. You know the kid who scores straight A's but freaks out if the spoon touches the rice? That was Amy. And it wasn't just the IQ. In 1986, that something different became impossible to ignore. At 21, Amy shot and killed her 18-year-old brother with a shotgun in their kitchen. The official story? Accident. The logical version? A mystery with more holes than the shotgun blast. Amy claimed she was trying to unload the weapon, shot her brother, then ran off with the gun in hand like someone who forgot to buy milk. And weirdly, nobody found that strange. Or almost nobody. The only witness? Her mother, who played lawyer, spin doctor, and human shield. She said Amy was nervous, it was a mistake, and everything was fine. The police nodded and closed the case faster than you can say, privilege. Years later, the records magically vanished. Amy moved on like she'd lost a keychain, not a sibling. And the academic world rolled out the red carpet like nothing ever happened. After killing her brother and walking away without consequences, Amy dove headfirst into the academic elite like she'd just won the Science Olympics. She studied biology, got into Harvard, married a fellow nerd, and popped out 4 kids, a real multitasking queen. Her dissertation? Garbage, according to colleagues. One even called it a local scandal. But she got the degree anyway. And not just that she became a professor at Harvard, because sometimes prestige outweighs your past. Then came the bomb. Literally. A Harvard professor who'd worked with Amy opened a package at home. 2 pipe bombs. They didn't explode, thankfully. But guess who was at the top of the suspect list? Amy. She and her husband were investigated. Why? Because the professor allegedly got in the way of her career. Amy had been joking with friends about how to build a bomb. Ah yes, academic humor at its finest. No one was arrested, no charges were filed, and the incident quietly faded into the shadows as so many scandals do when the last name holds weight. But the pattern was forming. Amy didn't handle rejection well, and every once in a while, her frustration took shape as violence or something close to it. The scary part? Like a badly wired bomb, she was still ticking. and the next explosion would happen somewhere totally unexpected. IHOP. One random Saturday, Amy Bishop went to IHOP with her 4 kids. Pancakes, coffee, and chaos. When she found out the last booster seat was already taken, Amy flipped. She yelled at the waitress, stormed over to the woman who had the seat, and cherry on top punched her in the head. Right there, in front of the kids. This wasn't brunch, it was a low-budget reality show breakdown. The cops were called, Amy was arrested, but of course the charges vanished. The go-to excuse returned to the menu. She's just under a lot of stress. 4 kids, academic pressure, writing novels. Sure, we get it. Most overwhelmed moms cry in the shower. Amy threw fists at strangers over high chairs. And people still said, but she's so smart. As if a Harvard degree cancels out being unhinged. That IHOP scene? It was just a trailer for the full movie. A sneak peek at the unraveling no one wanted to watch. Each meltdown earned her more excuses and fewer boundaries. And like every overindulged ego, she started to believe the world should understand her tantrums. But academia doesn't run on emotional turbulence, it runs on merit. And that word tenure was about to shatter her delusion. If there's one phrase that sparks more existential dread in a professor than PowerPoint isn't working, it's tenure denied. Amy Bishop spent years chasing that holy grail of academia, the shield that says, you've made it. But in 2009, the verdict came. No, she didn't get it. And to Amy, that wasn't just rejection. It was academic exile. Her students had already complained about her erratic behavior, poor teaching, and general, she's gonna snap energy. The university knew. Her colleagues knew. But for reasons only bureaucracy can explain, Amy kept teaching even after the committee dropped that symbolic bomb. And like any mind already fraying at the edges, she took it as a personal attack, a vendetta, a betrayal wrapped in paperwork. To her, the world became the enemy. She was the misunderstood genius, the martyr of a cruel system. But in reality, her bruised ego turned combustible. Years of resentment became fuel. And then, we're back in that conference room full circle. Amy, standing, armed, ending the lives of 3 colleagues. It wasn't a meltdown. It was a conclusion. Because when you feed trauma with silence and dress up the ego in credentials, the monster grows in a suit. Still think genius equals sanity? Or that a degree guarantees emotional balance? Amy Bishop's story is the punch in the face no one wanted but everyone needed. A reminder that ignored trauma turns into explosions, and that coddled egos don't heal, they rot. So tell me, how many Amys do you know? How many outbursts have you excused just because the person was too smart to be crazy? Maybe it's time to stop normalizing the unstable and start recognizing the red flags in others and in yourself. If this video made you think, drop a comment about what shocked you most. And of course, hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and stick with me for more stories that mix brutal truth with real self-awareness. No sugarcoating, no woo-woo, just clarity. Let's go.